about this initiation of young men. Why is it important for young men to go through this journey among other young men and not in mixed groups? Why is it important for men, and especially young men, to gather together, to be in the company of elders or of more mature men? Why is this
Yeah.
a need, or it's important to happen?
Well, Richard Rohr has said there are 5 key lessons every man needs to learn. And I think why the idea that has happened in society is all the way back. Why there's a separation phase where young men do this on their own with men. It's partly due to energy, masculine energy and feminine energy. But also, there's a couple of key differences between boys and girls. And Rohr, in his research, came up with 5 key lessons we need to know, or points we need to know about life. And the first one was that life is hard. Life is hard. Scott Peck opened his book years ago with that famous line, life is difficult. Rohr would say, life is hard. And you need to know that. And life is not about you. Like, you're not the center. So it's just touching in the area of ego. And I think in those 2 points, girls, purely by their physical structure and their experience of menstruation as they start puberty, instinctively know, even if it's not explained to them conceptually, that life is not about them. And I remember hearing a speaker talk about this from one of the trips into Ireland, one of the speakers from the States. Women haven't needed the rites of passage process traditionally. They may now need it in modern society, but they haven't traditionally, because women themselves guided young women, because they knew have children or not, it didn't matter. Their bodies were preparing for each month the potential of birth, and that meant their life was not about them anymore. The child would dominate and take over and become the focus. So irrespective of having a child, I think a woman instinctively gets that. And boys don't have that physical process going on in their body. So of course we see it all the time. There are men who reach old age and they haven't grown up. So Rohr will talk a lot about the build of the ego and then the need to take the ego apart later in life. A crucial step to move into the second stage of life. But those things need to be taught to young boys. They are not the center of the world. But until they're told that, they will act like they are and believe that they are. And that a few other points, that everybody, and that they and you and me are going to die. Actually know that we're mortal and that we will die. And quite soon. Quite soon. That's a key lesson. So if your ego is very strong, as it has to be at that age, there needs to be ego. This is a counterbalancing piece of learning. And these other 2 points where you're not that important. In the great scheme of things, you're not that important. Nobody is that important. Again, that's a challenge to ego. And crucially, we are not in control. So men would be particularly strong on being in control, generally speaking. Yeah. About the male gender. Being in control, ego-driven, strong, all those kind of characteristics of men that are traditional in some ways. And therefore, I think that's why societies knew that boys needed special guidance, and it had to come from men who would have done this already. That's the crucial point. The men would already have been through these processes. And so they can speak from a strong wisdom to young guys saying, life is not about you. You're not that important. You think you are, fine, but you're really not. And one day, soon, you're going to die. It's going to be all over in that sense. What you're going to do about your life? What are you going to do with your life? Those kind of questions need to come from wiser, older men. Yeah. And in my experience now with the Rites of Passage from Rohr, and I've read of there are other agencies and other organizations and other groups organizing Rites of Passage. They're touching on those core truths. I think they're in the zone of authenticity regarding Rites of Passage.
Mm-hmm.